What's good, everybody, and welcome back to the End Goal Podcast, the podcast where I like to talk to people about topics that I find interesting and or informative. Today, we're talking to Andrew Givler. He wrote this book right here, okay? Right there. Wherever his book is, wherever my book is, he wrote these books. And literally, right, we just started talking about that this is the first time he and I have ever talked. Actually, I've never heard his voice directed at me in this way before.
How's it feel?
The better. Feels great, by the way. Love that. I love it. I love it. I had a moment this year where I had like the thought that, wow, I can actually read books, read the things I want to read, and the people who write them aren't like out of reach to where I actually can't talk to them. You know, growing up, I was like, oh, big fan of Cindy Williams Chima. And things like that. I could never talk to her because she's an author and I'm a consumer. I'm a pleb. I could never talk to her. And then the world of indie books just completely just ripped that apart for me. I'm like, no, the authors actually do want to talk to you as a person.
The barriers have come down so much.
Yeah,
it's really cool.
Exactly. And so being able to do this is awesome.
Yeah.
And so I'd never heard about you until Andy emailed me this book and said, Progression Fantasy. I said, send it. Like, it sounds great. I said, send it. And then I read it within 24 hours, quite literally, guys. I opened this book that morning. It was in October. I remember. I think it was either before or after. I'm a tax accountant, so it was either before or after the deadline. If it was before the deadline, that means I dedicated a whole day to your book and did not actually work for taxes. And so I was DMing Andy, like back and forth. We were DMing because we were reading at the same time. I was like, bro, at the end of chapter 13, the enders of the chapters in that book specifically were banger lines. Banger, right? And so I'm pretty sure you laced this with some sort of narcotic or something because it was like page turning, right? And that's when I was like, okay, cool. Andrew Givler's kind of sick. Interesting. Did my usual thing, posted about it, etc. And you just said that I was one of the first people that you saw that actually posted about the book.
I mean, Andy might have posted something before that, but also, you know, Andy is my friend and author, but he's also working with Avon. Right. So that, like, I think you were the first, like, organic in the wild person that was, like, posted about Ironbound. And I was like, oh, yeah, okay, that's not even out. I didn't know that it was going to people. I didn't know when. I mean, you know, Andy was like, we're going to send it out to people, try to get, you know, some readers, some reviews. And I was like, awesome. And then all of a sudden you just, like, popped up on my timeline. And I was like, wait, that's my book. Okay. I didn't even know to be nervous about this yet.
So I'm going to ask you before I get to the thing I wanted to share. How did that make you feel about finally seeing your book in front of somebody who you like? The idea that you wanted, what you want is you want to write a book and you wanted for people you don't know to read it and talk about it. So how did that feel when that first started happening?
I mean, it felt awesome. It was, like I said, I think the most surprising part was like I'm always braced for the release. I'm usually like a wreck for like a week whenever a book comes out.
Yeah.
And this was like ahead, so it was like a surprise kind of thing. And so that put me into like a new level of like, oh, how many people are reading it right now? Like, I didn't know that this was out there for people. What's going on?
Yeah.
But you know, your review was very positive, so that put me off on a good note where I was like, all right, cool. Yeah. A stranger liked it. That's always a good sign because your friends, your like readers who like what you do, who are used to your thing, when they're like, this is great. That's awesome, but they already are like inside your inner audience. So I was like, we didn't know each other, and you were like, I couldn't put this book down. I was like, yes, okay, it works.
That's always what you love to hear. So funny fact is when Tim Facciola, do you know him? Have you heard of him?
I don't know if I have.
Okay, so he wrote these 4 books behind me. They're an epic fantasy series. He wrote them based on like Gladiator mixed with some other themes. It's amazing.
Awesome. Okay.
4 of my favorite books by him. So when he first released his book, and this is when I first started creating content like 2023, his debut book, Vengeful Scales of Balance, he released it free on ebook for the first week as like a celebration of releasing the book. So I saw it at the beginning of that week, picked it up, read it that same week before the week was even done, because I was like, I want to finish it before the week's done, see if people want to pick up the free copy, posted about it. And he said, and later on when we got to talking, he was like, you were the first person that I ever saw post about my book also. And now he and I are tight. He came over. We did an in-person podcast.
Oh, that's awesome.
He has his next series coming out. The Kickstarter just finished. So like that blossomed into like this really cool friendship between me and this person, simply because I read their book. But just interestingly enough, I also was the first person to talk about his book.
And I'm like, you're just an early adopter. You're an early adopter.
And that's what I really love about what I like to do is like, okay, cool. I know y'all love Red Rising. I know y'all love Will of the Many. I know y'all love this. Okay. But have you heard of Ironbound? Right? Have you heard of Scales of Balance? Have you heard of these books? Like nobody's talking about these books. And also it wasn't out yet. So
yeah,
now I can talk about it. So let's backtrack though. So this was your debut book. This was your debut published book, but you've written a series before this.
Correct. Yeah, I have an urban fantasy series called The Debt Collection, which I've been publishing for. I think the first book came out in 2022. It's
called Soul Fraud, guys.
That's my debut right there.
Right there. So you wrote this book, and when you say in 2022,
I think that's when I finished it. I mean, I started writing that book when I was like 25, but I believe it was published in 2022. Time flies. Yeah, you have it there. You'll know better than me.
I'm looking through when does it say 2022? Yeah, there you go.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
So that was my debut.
So what were you doing before this book? These books?
Well, I mean, I am a full-time YouTuber. That is like my day job. I run a gaming YouTube channel that I've been doing full-time for like 8 or 9 years at this point. And it's been it's a ton of fun. I love it. But my childhood dream was to write. I was writing Soul Fraud when my YouTube channel really took off and I started to put more time into it. And I got distracted. I moved to LA. I put all my effort into this career that was going well, and it was a lot of fun. And 2022 was like tail end of the pandemic. I turned 30 during the pandemic, and I was like, why have I never like actually written a book?
Yeah.
And so I sat down and finished it. And then I was like, all right, well, getting this thing published should be easy. I hear you have to have a social media following. I have a social media following. Let's do it. And then I went on this really confusing journey where I got turned down by a lot of agents. And living in LA, it wasn't like I was cold querying. It was like I had a manager or an agent who had worked with a ton of lit agents, like had personal relationships with them, and was like, hey, my client with a big social media following has written a novel.
Right.
What do you think? And a bunch of them gave her really nice feedback where they were like, this is really fun. It's creative. It's something different. It's not for me. Yeah. She was like, I don't know what to do with that, because they would tell me if they didn't like it. And what I didn't know is that urban fantasy had become like not popular since when I started writing Soul Fraud.
I see.
And so publishers weren't looking for urban fantasy, so agents weren't looking for urban fantasy. And so I was like, well, then let me look up a bunch of authors who I've launched into a whole story. Anyway, let me look into
keep it going. Yeah.
Let me look up a bunch of authors that I've been enjoying. I want to see like who they working with. Like maybe I can, if I'm kind of in these veins, or I think these guys are cool, maybe I can do something. So I started looking up people I've been reading, and it was like self-published, and I was like, okay, something's going on that I don't know. What is it? And then I started researching, and I found about sort of the the burgeoning self-publishing world. And the more I read about it, the more I was like, okay, so this is sort of like being a YouTuber. When you make a YouTube video, you come up with an idea, you film it, you edit it, you get a thumbnail made, you figure out how to title it and everything, and then you post it, right? When you write a book, you come up with an idea, you write it, you get it edited, you get a cover made, and then you figure out how to title it and edit it. And I was like, wait a second, hold on.
All the skills I have here, I can just peel off and paste here, which was actually one of the things I was going to ask you is, did you find that all these skills you trained up for your day job, your YouTube channel and stuff like that, your YouTube career, how many of those transferred over to being an author that kind of helped?
Oh, 100%. I think I often call them like cousin industries, right? Yeah. There are differences. There are things you think about differently, but it definitely was like a step up from starting at ground zero. Because even if I don't know something, once I start to like research it, it's like, oh, okay, that's how this industry handles, a problem I'm familiar with. Cool. Okay, got it. So it's definitely given me a leg up, and it's also been really helpful because a lot of people have given me the time of day, because even though I hadn't written a ton of books, I had sort of like proven myself in another self-made creative career, which meant that people were like, oh, okay, like he's serious about doing this, and I want to learn about social media. So a lot of authors would be like, here are all my secrets. Please tell me about social media. And so we would kind of do a little swap, and so I was able to like learn a lot and really figure things out, which has been tremendously helpful. as I go.
So is this your kind of beginnings of pivoting careers in a sense?
Yeah, pivoting's a strong word. I think that careers like YouTube don't last forever. It is I usually describe it as, the opening of the Pirates of the Caribbean when Jack is sailing that ship that's sinking, and he sails it right up to the dock and then just calmly steps off. That's really what I'm hoping to do. A writing career takes a while to start up, but it would be awesome if when I'm done with YouTube, I could just write full time.
Mm-hmm.
That would be like the dream for me.
Yeah, and you just hit 2,000.
Yeah, dude, that was crazy.
Right,
yeah, I just broke 2,000 on Goodreads, which is like basically 1,000 more than anything else I've ever written.
Yeah.
So Ironbound has done really, really surprisingly well. So I'm thrilled and happy people are enjoying it.
Yeah, you say surprisingly. Are you surprised?
Yes and no. I kind of refuse to have expectations about anything I do creatively, because you can only be disappointed. My imagination is very active, right? And so I knew that it was, this is my second series. So if you're comparing it pound to pound with my debut, I knew I was better. I knew I had written a better book, and I knew I had written something more informed on what the market was and what people were looking for. And the people who read it liked it a lot. But other than that, I don't know. I also was coming into a genre that I wasn't necessarily mine, and I was doing things differently. So I was also like, people might feel like, this guy doesn't belong, or it's an outsider. But fortunately, most people have sort of appreciated the fresh take of progression fantasy, rather than feeling like, this guy's wrong, which I was worried about.
Somebody described progression fantasy to me in a way that I think finally clicked on why it's so addictive to me. And he said, I think that's actually Tim who told me this, but he said, romantasy is to women, has lit RPG and progressive fantasies to men in terms of their initial reaction and as they're reading it. In terms of, I've seen so many more men in the lit RPG and progression fantasy space. Not to say there aren't any women, obviously, but more men there, and men would be more willing to try a progressive fantasy book or a lit RPG book as opposed to a romantasy book. And you might see women in the opposite vein of who'd want to try romantasy more first before venturing into progression fantasy, lit RPG, things like that. And when he said that, I was like, I only have myself as a test subject. But he's not wrong, because every time I've tried something like just romantasy in the past, it doesn't do anything for me. And then as soon as I pick up anything that's progression fantasy, anything that's lit RPG, anything that's gamified or has ranks, or the style is so addicting to me. It is quite literally it is just addicting for me to read. I can't put it down. My wife's the opposite, where she liked ACOTAR, she liked book 2, she liked Fourth Wing, she liked all those romantasy books. But if I were to try and bring this in front of her, it might not appeal to her as easily or as much. So that was very interesting, metaphor. No, maybe a metaphor or something, or some similar, something like that, or analogy of that he brought up.
Or a what is it, an SAT logic test? This
I'm trying to figure out what word.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm a pretty wide range reader. I like ACOTAR. I enjoy a lot of romantasy. I think it also a lot of it comes to if you have a video game brain.
Yep.
Right. Which, especially growing up as millennials, that was definitely pushed towards boys more at certain parts in our lives, but is not nearly as much anymore, thankfully. So it depends, really. That's not how I think of it personally.
Yeah.
But I would certainly agree that there's definitely some men is a more target audience for a lot of progression fantasy as it's written.
Yeah.
In that regard.
What books or things did you read or reference as you were writing Ironbound?
That's funny. Obviously, the ones that everybody says is Red Rising and Will of the Many. But the truth is that I really don't think. I think they're much more surface level stuff. This book is I read Will White's Cradle, and really, really enjoyed it. And that was my intro to progression fantasy. Yep. But as I was reading it, I don't come from an anime background, and having it sort of set in a very like Asian, Japanese inspired culture, I don't have the knowledge to like write a story set in that like authentically or well. And so I was like, I love the idea of like a fantasy world sort of built off this thing and the magic kind of style. But I don't know like that culture at all well enough to feel comfortable writing something there. And I was like, well, what ancient culture do I know? And I was like, I know the Romans. That's, where I'm comfortable.
You think about the Roman Empire every week.
I think about the Roman Empire. Dude, I was writing Ironbound when that like meme came out.
Yeah.
And I remember one of my friends texted me and she was like, how often do you think about the Roman Empire? And I was like,
currently writing about it.
Yeah. And she was like, I don't believe you. And then Ironbound came out and she read it and she was like, oh, I think I believe you. The other, real big one is I read Jim Butcher's Codex Alera when I was very young, and I've been obsessed with like Roman fantasy since then, which that also has like got a lot of elemental powers in it and things like that. So I would say that like if you were to make a smoothie of all the flavors that went into what made up Ironbound, those two would be like bigger portions of the flavors that in there. I was always going to write it first person. I started writing it first person past. But I really felt like progression fantasy has opportunity for such cool fight scenes and first person present after having read Red Rising and Will of the Many. Really, like I was so convinced that how cool you can make action in there. And I had most progression fantasies written third person. So I was like, I just really want to do something different. I really like how this like lets me lean into what I think are a lot of strengths of progression fantasy. And so those are the like influences. Yes, they also, of course, are Roman, like all that, but like the big thing for that was just like the tone, I think.
Yeah.
And then there's other stuff. Bryce O'Connor's Iron Prince, which is a really phenomenal progression fantasy. A bunch of other little things, but those are probably some of the big ones.
I've had that on my Kindle for like 2-3 years now. I still need to open
It's a chonk,
that book.
dude. It's a chonk, but it's a lot of fun.
Wow. I actually didn't know it was progression fantasy. So now that you said that, it moved itself up so much higher in my TBR list.
So I found that because Will White actually recommended it as the closest thing he had found to Cradle.
Ooh.
So, and I would agree that like those two are different from most other progression fantasies in the same way that like DCC is different from a lot of lit RPG.
Yeah.
In what they were, and those were the first two progression fantasies I read. So that was like progression fantasy is a massive sprawling genre. In my head, that was like where I saw progression fantasy and where I started. Yeah.
Interesting. So then what in your book, not to spoil things for people who haven't read it, but in your book you have this type of magic system that is focused around not just elemental, but specification inside elemental to a theme. It's like themed. It's like a themed occurrence of an idea inside the element. It took me so long. It took me 2 books to be able to like take that from what you're showing me to like put it into words. How did you generate that? Or what was the process like generating that?
It comes from a type of philosophy, actually.
Okay.
Which is and now I'm gonna have to try to sound smart. There's a branch of philosophy called, I believe it's Augustinian Platonism, which is like Plato had the idea that there's like a perfect version of everything that exists, right? Or yeah, I mean, you could also just call it Plato, really. Like you don't have to get into the weeds about it, but like essentially, there is a perfect version of every single thing that exists that everything else is like an echo of. And so basically, I wanted to do something elemental, but I was really tired of the 4 or 5 basic elements. Yeah. And so the idea was just that like everything is an element, and there is a perfect form of it that like they're all interconnected and tied to the idea of the symbol of whatever that thing is, and that anything can have a symbol, and within like anything natural can have a symbol, and then therefore have like a way to interact from it. So it was really basically Plato combined with your classic elemental rules.
I mean, that makes so much more sense because I think like I haven't seen somebody freak with elemental magic in this way. And I'm a gamer, I'm a reader, I've grown up reading and gaming. Like you've seen so many different ways people freak with elemental magic with fusions and interactions. I just have not seen anybody do this, to your credit. Like nobody's put fresh snow in my magic book and said, I gotta use this and pack it into ancient something or another. Like
Yeah.
Like I think that's what was very cool in like how you described it and how you kind of created it, right? And to say that it comes from a philosophical ideal that you read about, I was like, okay, cool. So that makes sense why I have no clue what it is, because philosophy. Wow. So how long did it take you to write Ironbound?
Ironbound took me about, I want to say 4 to 5 months
to write it, and then editing was afterwards.
Yeah. Just for the rough draft.
Okay.
It was the longest book I had written at the time. But it also, like, I don't know, I really hit a flow state with that book where it was just like the back half just came, and it was a lot of fun. The hardest part was some of the stuff in the beginning where I had to just like start to solidify the magic. I did and undid a few things a few times to sort of figure out how it worked. Because I'm a very like exploratory oriented creative. I have to just try stuff. But once it was there, I think it was about 4 months.
Interesting. So if somebody's out there listening to this right now and they're like, hey, I also want to write a book. You banged out a book in like 4 to 5 months, but this is your like this is not your first book. This is like you've written before this, and this is like your 4th, 5th book that you've written at this point.
I think it was 5th. I'm pretty sure.
So from your first book to your now 5th book that you wrote, can you talk about how like the process of writing that either refined itself over time, or like what you learned in that process that somebody might be like, okay, maybe if you skip certain like, here's what I did, here's what worked and didn't work. Like what was that process like for you?
My process, I mean, Self-Fraud technically took me like a decade, right? There was a lot where like I took a break, not a decade, I guess it was like 5 years, but like I took a break, I wasn't working on it the whole time, but like, yeah, my longest is 5 years, my shortest is 4 months. The thing that I have gotten better at is raw word count. You get better at just writing, right? You get faster, you like know how a thing goes, you feel the pieces, you feel the vibe, you get your style. But more than that, it's also like you get better instincts. I am getting better at just not worrying about things as I go, because I'm not a planner. I'm not really a planner. I have ideas. I think I know where things are going. I know the last book of like the last sentence of Ironbound, and I've known that since I wrote book 1. But I don't always know that, and I don't always know the steps in between. So sometimes I try something, and then the thing that I've had to learn to be comfortable with is I'm writing something, and if I don't like it, that means something's wrong. And sometimes that means I have to delete a bunch, right? Like me going forward blindly means I have to be willing to make mistakes, and mistakes mean throwing away work. I recently threw away a pretty big chunk on Ironbound 3, and I'm really glad I did. But I wrote a bunch of things that was like wrong. I'm not enjoying this. Something feels wrong. And then eventually I found it. So for me, it's like I've gotten comfortable making mistakes, and I've got comfortable knowing when this feels wrong because I need to go back and fix it.
Yeah,
and I can do that later, and I'm not going to halt my like forward momentum. And like this feels wrong in a way where like I need to stop and I need to figure out why it's wrong, because I just pushing ahead blindly on something that's not working is insanity.
Are you the kind of author who says like, I mean, the character just did this, and so I really didn't have a choice. Like we had to, like the character had to do that. You know what I'm saying? Like you meet those authors where they're like, that's just what the character would do at that time. I don't have any control over that.
Sure, I'll tell you something. It'll blow your mind.
Okay.
So in part 1 of Ironbound, when they gather to swear the oath, and Castor sort of balks at it, and Valentina says, "What are you being such a like a baby about? The gods are dead." I didn't know the gods were dead. I didn't think there were gods. And then she said that, and I like leaned back in my chair and was like, "Huh." I didn't really think we were doing gods, God. Valentina. Yeah, pretty much. And then,
I'm imagining TD Orell is just like,
basically, yeah.
God.
Basically, yeah. But then in true TD Orell fashion, I was also like, that's freaking sick. And so the story like shifted to accommodate that. But that was not the plan going into Ironbound. And it is now, as you have read, a central, it's a pretty big deal in the story. Yeah. But what the book I thought I was writing and the book I ended up writing, very different.
I once again love that you said, when this character said this, that's what alerted me, not when I wrote this, right? Because I find it very interesting authors that say, I wrote that, or instead, as opposed to this character did that, right? They like separate themselves from the actual story, characters, etc.
Oh yeah.
It's very like, it's hard for me to, like, I'm talking about it, but it's very hard for me to understand that, given that I don't write, I don't plan to be a writer. I just consume, and it's like, I wonder if I ever were to do that, how does that separation feel?
You feel like a conduit. When you get in like a flow state with characters that you understand in a conversation, I will write a sentence and then I'll delete it because I'll be like, no, that's not what you know. Felix is a great example where like I always know what Felix wants to say, and sometimes I have to be like, yo, Felix, let other people talk, like, because he always has got a comment. But it's like I don't have to think. I just know. Other characters are slower. Like the further they get away from you, I think sometimes they're like, you don't understand them as intimately. But yeah, it's. I know when I write a sentence that character wouldn't say. It feels wrong. And you're like, oh, that's me, not them.
Yeah. When I was reading Cold Wind, I was like actually highlighting stuff this time. And first of all, I messaged you this. And when I saw the name Pliny, I was like, this guy's a snake. This guy can't be nice. This guy can't be a good guy. Only because, and honestly, I probably wouldn't have. I would not have ever thought that if I hadn't read Golden Sun in January. And this is in no way like comparing the two books. It's just when the names came up, I'm like, the only other character in my brain is a slimy Pliny versus
Pliny. Pliny is a famous philosopher. Like Pliny the Elder is like a famous Roman philosopher. So unfortunately, the Romans didn't actually have a lot of names. Like the way that Roman naming conventions went is like there are. Another name I used is I was using the Fabii as one point because they were the richest family in Rome at one point in Rome's history. And so I was like, the Crassus, like a whole bunch of the names are just like pulled from Roman history. But I had to start to be like, I ended up like removing the Fabii because people were like, is this a reference? And I was like, shoot, only he and I have read that book. Like, never mind. I can't
it's so funny to be in that position of like, I am writing something that is not like this other person's works at all. But what they referenced and what I'm referencing are the same. We pillaged
the same places.
We're literally, and he just pillaged it a little bit earlier than you did. And so it's like,
well, it makes me laugh. I'm like, you know what? That's so funny. But so yeah, I got rid of a couple names where I was like, ooh, these are too close to like being used in a bunch of places that use, not just there, but like even Will of the Many, some other ones. But like, there's just not that many Roman names. They really, the way that like Romans named was like your base name. Like some people just had numbers, right? Like depending on it. So. Like I'm going through these lists and I'm like, that's taken. That one's probably fine. So when you messaged me, I was like, I almost changed his name, but I liked it because it is a reference to like.
But I do like it though because of the fact that the name might be the same, whatever it is, right? But the character is not.
No, yeah, they're very different.
Now the character's he's so cool. He's so cool, and every time Castor's like. His eyes looked with such like innocence or like surety and like just very like cordial, like he was genuine, and it's like, is he and I keep second guessing myself and I'm like, no, RH at this point, like halfway through the book, just let him be, and then I also saw in a couple spots in this book that you like would just use the words bloody sands, and I'm like, okay,
there are two types of authors. Those who use the titles of their books and those who don't. And I cannot help myself.
And you're the author who said, it saw the cold wind that brought you in. And I was like, he said the thing. But what I would like to say is one of my favorite lines that you've written is and it comes up, it's a central theme in the story is, I am iron, I do not bend, I do not break. And I can just like, I just love the ideal of that, but it also has a rhythm to it. And I think I love the rhythm of the sentences. So that was really cool. That was my favorite part when I was reading this book. and it was probably in book one, and my memory's just trash, but like, it just really, like, in this book, I was like, when I get to those moments and I read that line, I'm like, the rhythm, and then I keep going, right? So it's kind of cool. It's almost like the Wolf of Wall Street, just like this.
Matthew McConaughey.
And then Cass is just doing that.
Honestly, a little bit.
Doing that in his head the entire time. Awesome. Wow. Okay, guys, I'm gonna try and pivot Andrew away from Ironbound because I don't want to spoil for people. Ironbound is book one. It came out in October last year. Cold Wind is Andrew's next book. Ironbound book 2 that comes out in May.
19th, I think.
19th?
It got pushed back.
Okay.
So it's late May now. It was originally, I think, the 9th or something. It's like 2 weeks later. I wanted to edit it a little longer because I'm obsessive, and so Athon was kind enough to agree. But because it is in actual retail stores, they need more time to print. So they were like, "Hey, we can't just like wait." And I was like,
"Yeah, that's fair."
So we agreed.
Yeah. So I would just tell people, like, even if you're not into reading, take it from me, you just got to give this book a try. This is when I think about my book stack recommendation of like, hey, if you're new to fantasy or want to get into fantasy or you want to get into a specific genre, which is called progressive fantasy, this is one of the books you try. Like this is one of the books that I put in front of people. Like, don't read anything else. Sure, if you want to try Cradle, do it, but it's 12 books. You want one book? You want 2 books so far? That's the one you want to try.
And Ironbound will be 4.
Yes. And so that's perfect. Dude, I'm so mad because while I was reading, guys, we're still talking about Ironbound. While I was reading Ironbound, I was in part 3 and I wanted to start over and just read it again. And then I finished the book and I told Andy and you, and I was like, I've already finished the book. And I already want to restart and read it again. And I was planning to read it before book 2 came out, but since I've been so busy, I just went ahead and went straight into book 2. I finished book 2. I was into book 2, and I was like, I want to go back and read book 1 again. So I just think that's really cool. And what I want to ask you is, like, in this journey of you becoming an author, you made a lot of author friends. You made a lot of friends along the way and stuff like that, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Are there some people who you look up to, like, as like a mentor, or people who you went to for advice while you're writing these books?
So many. One of the things I really like about the indie author space is that it truly doesn't feel, people don't feel competitive with each other. Because no matter how fast of a writer you are, you can never write enough books to monopolize the market's time. And so people are not stressed. In fact, they'd actually prefer it if you read other books in the genre, so that you're still excited about that genre when they publish, right?
Yeah.
And so I was writing urban fantasy. I went to a lot of indie author conventions. I went to things like Dragon Con. And I started meeting authors, and I really became friends with a lot of the guys in the lit RPG community, who were just like, come on over here, like, come right over here. I met Rhett and Steve from Athon, like one of the very first things I ever did, and they took a bunch of time out of their day to like talk to me about how to properly self-publish, even though they weren't publishing my books. And they were like, well, when you want to write something in, like, you know, our sphere, come over here, you know, like, come to us, like, we'd love to work with you. Seth Ring was a friend that I made very, very early on, and he's like one of my closest friends. And we
see it, but
just you got a little. Is that BMF up there? What do we got?
That's BMF and Novatera right there.
Yeah. Okay, so like, Seth and I are super close friends. And actually, he and I started a board game company together. So that's been a project we've done. Norrit Flood, who writes Randiddly Ghost Hound. I literally just met with him for dinner last night because he actually lives just down the street from me in LA. And he always tears the books to shreds. So he just read Ironbound 3 and gave me a whole bunch of feedback over dinner that is going to make it better. He did the same thing. He tore Cold Wind to shreds. And I actually ended up adding about 25,000 words after he went through it. So like...
You're a better man than I, because even if I ever made something and I would go to somebody of like, I'm expecting you to tear it to shreds, tell me, I want to be better, and I would still hear that and be like, fuck me.
I mean, it hurts, right? But also, I've been making content for so long, that like I know that your first swing's never right, and I am learning that with books, especially, like, I'm exploratory. Cold Wind was a crazy book. It was one of the weirdest books I've ever written because I had an outline of what I thought was going to happen in the book. and I accomplished about half of it.
Yeah.
And I wrote the final chapter of Cold Wind, and I was home for Christmas. Actually, I was visiting my parents, and I went and shoved myself in a closet. I wrote the final. I wrote that last chapter, and I came out into the kitchen, and my mom was like, "Are you okay? You have a weird look on your face." And I was like, "I think I just finished a book, right?" Like I didn't know, and obviously I went through and trimmed it and like shaped it, like but it really caught me off guard. It took me longer to do a lot of the stuff, and I really liked everything that came out. It just like wasn't how I planned it.
Yeah.
And in fact, I had to go to the publisher and be like, "Hey, can I have a fourth book? Because I can't end this in 3." And they were like, "Yes, you can." But like Bloody Sands didn't exist as an idea until I wrote Cold Wind. Well, that's not true. Half of Bloody Sands existed as an idea. And so there were things that were missing, and there were things from the genre that I was missing. And Norit really was just like, all right. Actually, Seth Ring was in town. He hadn't read it, but Norit had, and the three of us went to breakfast. Norit tore it to shreds, and Seth was like, "Norit's right about that being important. Norit's right about that," and so I just sat there like typing notes on my phone, being like, "Okay."
Yeah.
Bryce O'Connor was also one of the first authors I ever met. He runs Wraithmarked. Before I ever published my first book, he like had a call with me and just walked me through a ton of stuff. He helped me find Chris McGrath, who does all the covers for the deck collection. So I could go on forever. The amount of like indie authors who have taken time to just share their experience, share their knowledge. Matt Dinneman is a gem of a human being. Brian Norden could die in a fire. Kidding, but he's a very good friend.
I do love this like joking like dueling that you guys do. It's very entertaining.
It's so much fun. And it's like just continuing to build. My new favorite bit is that Brian, he's much more established in progression fantasy. He will get messages from people who read Ironbound. They don't know anything about me.
Yeah.
And they'll message him like, "Hey, this like new guy on the block is like taking a shot at you." And he'll be like, "Go read book 4." And they'll be like, "Oh, it's that
guy?" That's amazing. That's like a type of like interconnected community like feeling that I haven't heard about from many people. And I feel like it's not a new thing, but like, I mean, to put it with a bit of an anecdote, when I first got onto book Twitter, because I was doing BookTube for a while, Book Talk for a while, nothing was really like, for me, nothing has really blown up. It's just steady, like, get your shots at the dartboard, see what happens right now. And I got onto book Twitter and I was following a lot of authors and I was seeing like what the authors say. And then I saw Ryan Cahill, I saw Philip Quaintrell, I saw Michael R. Miller, Andy Pelican. Like these guys were like really posting on TikTok and stuff, or Twitter and stuff. And then I saw that they were actually like know each other and talk with each other and like comment on each other's things and kind of like have like a shared like friendship or whatever. And I was like, how this is a thing? Like, are you guys part of the same? Like, are you guys? And sometimes I'm like, were you guys part of the same friend group and then all you guys started writing, or did you guys also writing individually then meet each other? But it was just really cool to see each other.
Yeah, it's usually cons. So Cahill and I are good friends as well. I actually just went to the UK. Right. I spent a week following Cahill around like a groupie while he did his world tour UK leg. But he was just because we're in a writing group, and it's Michael Chatfield, Andy Pelican, myself, Brian Norden, Seth Ring, and a few others. And who, during one of them, he was like, "Brian's coming. You should come." And I was like, I don't know. All the way to the UK. Like, I live in LA. That's a journey.
Yeah.
And then he looked up flights, and he's like, flights are like $500. And I was like,
wait a minute. Okay.
Well, how often do you get to see your friend go on a world tour?
Exactly.
Like maybe, yeah. So I popped over there. I stayed at his like his childhood house. I slept, in their guest room, hung out with his dad and his mom, who were just lovely, and then we bounced around the UK. But I was like, yeah, we're friends, Philip C. Quaintrell was there a couple times. I have been joking with a bunch of authors of like, you grow up reading those stories of like Hemingway and his friends, like, oh, we all went and stayed in someone's New York apartment and we all had philosophical debates. And now that I've done the modern equivalent, I'm like, oh no, they were just hanging out.
Yeah.
They're like, we're a bunch of nerds and we like books and you guys want to go talk about books in this place? Yes,
yeah.
I do actually. But it's, a lot of it's just through like cons. Like I met Ryan Cahill at Dragon Con and we were at the bar and we hit it off and we're like, cool, we're friends now. And that's just been couple years of that.
So if you were at a convention and you were as part of a panel, give me your dream panel members. with you. Give me 4, if you can.
What is the panel on? Because that changes everything.
That's fair. Let's say it's just a panel of. That's so hard because I mean there was a panel with like Dinneman and Brown and some other people who like they're not in the same genre but they're there. So I guess. Okay, you reverse this question on me.
Because otherwise it's like, I don't know, man. Like,
yeah, exactly. Yo, give me your progression fantasy panel.
A progression fantasy panel. Well, we gotta have me and Brian so we can bicker the whole time. Seth Ring, because everybody reads Seth Ring, and that's just important. James Hunter also, because I love James Hunter, and he's just the nicest man in the entire world, and he's so funny. Mm-hmm. And then we probably have to put Dinneman on there, but he's always fun. So and then we moderate it with Maud. And then I don't know what would come out, but it would all be scandalous.
It would be amazing. Okay, yes. So we have your progression fantasy panel. Give me a panel that you want to witness. Like, are there authors that you want to see like just talk to each other or like panel?
Yeah, I mean, I've never gotten to see Jim Butcher on a panel. He's definitely a very early writing inspiration for me. Would love to hear him talk. Who else would be? It gets weird once you're on this side because you're like, oh, but we've hung out. It's really those guys. It's really those guys who like can't come out in public because they've reached like the other side, right? I've never heard James Islington speak. I've enjoyed a lot of his works. Also like a lot of the guys who are in Australia, Jay Kristoff. They're just like not around, but they've done really cool stuff.
He's so tall. Oh my god,
dude! I know. He's taller than Cahill, which is crazy.
He's already. They're already.
As I'm bumbling around Europe with Brian Norden and Ryan Cahill, Brian's like 6'2", Cahill's like 6'3". I'm 6 foot, and I'm just like, yeah, guys, where are we going? Like,
big man, I'm 5'10". If I come see you, I'll be like, hello.
But dude, I somehow always end up in these like author circles where I'm the shortest one. James Hunter's also like 6'3". I'm just like,
Andy's tall as.
Yeah. I'm like, what is happening? Yeah. Why are you all giants?
Yeah. I think you can only make friends with people who are taller than you.
That's gotta be what driving me nuts, dude. It really is. Yeah. Fortunately, Bryce O'Connor and I are like the same height and both bald, so he can't hold anything over me.
There's a camaraderie there.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow, that's awesome. Okay, so that was a fun segment. I've always wanted to ask people that. It's just whenever I get somebody on here, I forget that one question. So I was like, I can't forget this question.
The author I want to meet the most is Michael Stackpole, who is like a really, really... He just was like, I read everything he wrote when I was a kid. I don't know. He's just a big inspiration to me. Really liked. He wrote a lot of like dark fantasy before his beginning. He wrote the best Star Wars novels that have ever been written. I'm sorry. I'll die on this hill. And he just had this like really wide, expanding career. I think I've read almost... Outside of like, he wrote for some IPs like Battletech and some other things that I didn't read, but I think I've read everything he's ever written pretty much. And it just was like a really foundational... Like I found him when I was like 13 and I just... blew through his entire bibliography. Yeah. So I've never gotten to meet him. I think that'd be really cool. I would love to hear him speak on a panel. He's at DragonCon every year, but he does like small like writer workshops. He doesn't do like open panels very much. Yeah. And so I've just never managed to cross paths.
Interesting. Would you like trip in front of him and be like, oh my god, sir, I'm so sorry, I'm tripping. Oh my god, it's you. Hi. Go for the dap. Brother may not even dap you. He's like, what is this?
What's happening?
What is a dap?
Yeah. He's a little bit older. I mean, I think he's like probably in his 60s now. So yeah, it would be, I don't know if he's ready.
What if we can shift gears again, guys, we're shifting gears again. So we went from Ironbound in your books. We went to a little bit more about you. I kind of want to stay on you for a little bit because I find people very interesting. With how Soul Fraud has done, with how Ironbound is doing, what does the success of Ironbound look like to you?
A good start. The books are interesting, right? Because my publisher said to me when Ironbound came out, and he said this very kindly. I don't mean this to sound like I'm complaining in the slightest. But, after about a month, he said, Ironbound is a success, but it is not a smash hit. Good job. And he was like, and good job. Like, it's a success, right? But like, I was asking for like, all right, how is it performing compared to like, these guys have worked with some massive IPs. Like what, this is my first time in this genre, in this level of exposure. I would like honest, genuine, honest feedback. And that was his like genuine, honest feedback. The thing that's been interesting is that it is staying higher than they expected. So like it never spiked to an insane level of hype on like the Amazon like rankings or anything. It did fine, but it has not fallen off as quickly as like other things might have, or it might have been expected to, especially for being a single book in the series, because people have continued to make content about it. It sold out of its print run. Like it did all these things that like nobody expected, that have like, it's starting to perform better. So I would say Ironbound's off to a phenomenal start. The Cold Wind will answer a lot of questions about like, series sometimes get more popular as more books come out, because some people don't want to start on a book one. They want more to dive into. So like, does that breathe more life into Ironbound? Does it continue to stay, or does it stay at about this level? Either way, it means that I'm doing something right and I can keep working, keep refining, getting better. Every book I write, when I want it to be better than the last one. And I think that, Ironbound, when it came out, was the best book I'd ever written. I think Cold Wind is better. And I think Bloody Sands will be better when I'm done with that. And so for me, it's just like encouragement to keep pushing and get better.
Why did you go? Did you have a naming convention in mind, or did these names just kind of happen as you finished writing the books? Because I would have thought after Ironbound, it would have been like a similar Bound.
Name. I thought about it.
And so I wondered, I was going to ask, did you think about it, or did you kind of want to just deviate from that?
I thought about it, but I couldn't do it in a way that didn't feel campy to me. And fair. The tone of Ironbound became so serious.
Yeah.
Right? Like, it's so dark, it's so serious, that I felt like doing a whole bunch of Bounds it didn't match the tone.
Yeah.
And so I love the title Ironbound, but I could not make it work as like, I tried to come up with other like one-word titles, doing like a John Gwynne, Valor, Malice kind of thing, but it didn't, because Ironbound's like a made-up long word. I could not find anything else that fit. So I just said, all right, then I'm going to just, Andy joked at a while, and there was a naming convention I had for a minute that was, book 1 was 1 word, book 2 was 2 words, book 3 was 3 words, and book 4 was going to be 4. But I strayed away from that. But for a minute, it was going to be Ironbound, Cold Wind, and then like These Bloody Sands or something like that. But I decided not to do it.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. I kind of get what you mean though, with how the tone transitioned even from book 1 to book 2, of straying away from this thematic naming convention. Probably would have like maybe capped maybe like the intrigue of the series, where now it's like, oh, this is like a legit series. This is not like a fun little play on words, like little thing that people do. So that's very interesting. I'm glad you didn't. I think my first brain went to, oh, the words aren't one word anymore.
Yeah, no,
and then book 2, oh, it doesn't. It's weird.
Truth be told, that kind of bothers me too. But I decided it was the right call.
Do you feel a pressure to make each book better than the last, and or at least, let's say however the Ironbound series does, do you feel like you would feel a pressure to then make the next series better, to where you would not want, like, would you not release it until you felt it was better?
Yes, I feel a pressure, but I think that pressure is like self-inflicted. Like, I am aggressively competitive.
Yeah.
I have very fierce standards for myself when it comes to writing, and I want to get better, and like I want to be one of the greats, right? Yeah. Like, that sounds like so, like, Timothy Chalamet. No. Here's the thing. When he said that, I was like, I get it, dude. Yeah. Like, you know what I mean? I love this. I love this like deeply. I love this in a way that I routinely find that other people don't. Like, I burn with a like desire to get better at it. That and I don't mean amongst other authors. I just mean like the average human being, right? Like, my friends are so supportive of me being an author, and they are so tired of hearing me talk about books, right?
Yep. Like, I'm pretty sure my friends are the exact same way when I bring up the podcast or the content channels or whatever it is, and they're probably like, "Do you do anything else?" And I'm like,
"No.
I kind of read a book today, but I got to make a video on it too." So
So the answer is no. My friends all just laugh. They're like, "Oh, we'll see Andrew next week. He's like cooped up in his house writing." Like, and it's so supportive. I don't mean this like negatively, but just like I want to be good, and nobody will push me as hard as I can push myself. Like that's just like the nature of getting better at things, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I feel tremendous pressure to make each book better than the last because I learn something every time I write a book, and so I better implement that, and then I need to learn something new.
Mm-hmm.
And this year I realized after everything is published this year, I believe I will have about 1 million words in print that I've written, which is awesome. Like that feels really cool.
Where's his play button? Where's his word button?
We should get
where's
one
his
for
gold
words.
word button?
That'd be sick, dude.
Yo, Athon? Athon.
Hang on.
Athon? I'm sending this to Andy. Idea.
That's actually a sick idea. I don't know. They'll have to give Seth the diamond one already, but
their first diamond is already Seth. Just backfilling it, actually.
Here's 2. We can't. Please stop.
No, okay. That guy's a machine. Side note: that guy's a machine. He does like writing sprints in the morning, and like he'll go live on Twitter and stuff. But like, I'm only on book 2 of BFM and Novaterra Titan, and I saw he released like Advent. And then he has like the book 8 or 7 or whatever it is of Titan is already like coming out, and I'm like, bro, I'm not even done with this stuff, bro.
Seth and I are so funny, right? Because we are fast friends, and our creative processes are like polar opposites.
Yeah,
and so we'll always be swapping stuff. I talk to him almost every day, right? We're like going back and forth, and it'll just be like everything he does. I'll describe like something I'm working on or how I'm doing it, and he'll just look at me and shake his head, and then it'll be the same. It's so much fun. I love so much seeing how Seth does things because I think we think like completely not oppositely, like we just like approach the problem from like the opposite side,
right?
And it's super fascinating because we'll argue about things all the time, and it's so much fun.
That's awesome.
Yeah, he's a machine. Can't be stopped. Won't be stopped. And I've learned a tremendous amount from him.
You know, the way that I found his books was I'm currently like living in a place outside of Philly, and in the King of Prussia like mall here, which is like one of the biggest malls. There's like one bookstore in this mall up in the second floor corner. It's called Bookish, and in there they do a really good. They try to make sure that they have local authors in there represented like all the time. And so they're like, yeah, this is like, so somebody like just pointed me to his books. And it's like, oh, that's Seth Ring. Yeah, he just recently dropped off like his books. So I'm like, oh, this is a local author here. Let me try it out. So I bought book 1, and then I bought book 1 of Titan, and I bought book 1 of BFM, and I read those. And then I proceeded to go back to Bookish, and I looked at that shelf, and I said, oh, okay, so you guys have books 2, 3, 4, and 5 of Novaterra, and then you have books 2 through 8 of BFM. I'm just gonna get them.
You're like that, and that has to be his whole bibliography, right? Right,
dude. He had some other weird like series there that I was like, this does not fit with these other 2 already. And then I go online. So here's my thing, right? I read Novaterra Titan.
Yeah.
Did I read his first series? No. So when I read book 1 of that, I was like, oh, cool. This is like a story about a guy who's already become OP and then going to the next level and being less OP. And then when I was making my video talking about this book, in the middle of the video, I went to his website, and I was like, guys, wait a minute. He wrote he wrote 10 books on how this guy became OP in the first place. and then whatever it is. And I was like, okay, cool. So I have the first 3 of those there as well. And I was gonna start it, but I was like, I kind of like seeing Thorn just being OP for a little bit before I even see his origin story. And I was like, and then I looked at the rest of his books. I was like, I'm never getting through this guy's bibliography unless I dedicate my entire year to this fucking guy. Like that's how it is. So
you know that Spider-Man meme that's like everywhere I go, I see his face.
Yes.
I get like an email from Amazon every couple months that's like, new from Seth Ring. And I just always screenshot it and send it to him. And I'm like, leave me alone, dude.
How do I turn these off? How do I turn these off just for you?
Golly.
Oh, that's so great. That's so great. Okay, back to you. So
yeah, me.
Success. None of your friends, just you. Success, pressure, all these things. These are all well and good. When somebody reads your book, what do you want them to know about you? Is there something that do you want them to know anything about you, or is it just about the book? Like, do you want them to separate author and book, or do you kind of want that together?
No, I'm fine with separation. I mean, now that I write, obviously I know a lot. Like, I end up reading books from people I know, but like, I often have no idea about the author, that I'm reading, and I think that's fine, right? Like, the only thing I really care is like, I hope you remember my name so that when you encounter one of my other series, or that you enjoy it enough that you go to read another one. I have no interest in fame except that it is a symptom of the kind of success that I would like to have.
Have you always been like that?
Probably, yeah. I mean, I've had a social media following for a while. Fortunately, I don't get recognized too often, but it happens. It's weird, like, it's fine. I just like making cool stuff. And I want to make really cool stuff. And so I hope that like people know my name so that they are like, oh, that's the guy who makes cool stuff. I want a piece of whatever that is.
Yeah.
Beyond that, couldn't care less.
I like that. I think that's a really cool way to separate yourself from the actual result. Like, I want to make the thing. I hope the thing does well, but then I go move on to the next cool thing.
Yeah.
Versus the first thing didn't do that well. Well, now I suck. Now I'm a failure. Now I feel really bad, and I can't move on to the next cool thing.
I am pretty good at throwing things away. My one of my writing like professors once told me, like, he was like, if you do become an author, the thing that I think will get you there is that like you are very good at just being like, this sucks, and just tossing it and starting over. I threw out an entire book this week, so I'm writing the Debt Collection 6. I wrote about 4 or 5 chapters. And I was like, it's wrong. I threw the whole thing away. And then I wrote it again, and it's better. Yeah. But and that's fine. But like, I'm fine with doing that in the pursuit. And if I make something that people don't like, I'll either fix it or I'll get rid of it. Like, that's fine. I can swing the bat again. It's fine.
Yeah. Interesting. I think that is what's gotten you this far too. With like, especially with you when you talked about having a YouTube career, like, you got to just throw things away and try something else. Like, oh, this type of video doesn't work with an audience anymore. What's the next one? Like, let's try this one. Let's try that one.
I've also been getting comments from 13-year-old boys for like 10 years, and nobody's meaner than them. So just
true.
Like, nothing anybody says about my books really like phases me.
Yeah. Okay. This is a very, very long tangent, and
I'm ready.
I just follow me here. I listened to a podcast today. It was Andrew Huberman, and Dr. K. Olakonogia, Healthy Gamer GG. And usually these are all over like psychotherapy, and they cover a lot of topics. And in there, they were talking about, just one of the topics was the body's way of like how we combat certain like things that people say to us. It's very easy when people say things that are very black and white to us. This is true, this is false. If I think it's false, it can't hurt me. It's black and white. If it's true, then oh well. But when people add nuance to the mix, it digs a little bit deeper. It's harder to reflect and push off, right? And in there, Dr. K said something really funny. He was like, kids at a schoolyard on the playground, you never want to be insulted by kids on a playground, because once they figure out what triggers you once, they will just keep pelting you with the same thing over and over again. And they have that, like, it's a weird level of nuance that kids have. And in a similar way, like if somebody were to tell you, hey, your book sucks, you're like, okay, well, that feels more like a more black and white thing. I don't think it sucks, so it's probably wrong. But if somebody were to write you like a paragraph of like, I think this tale was articulated in a way that seems very patriarchal, or blah 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 blah, and they start using words and using themes and using references, you're like, does my book
you're 100% correct. And also, it's that they're 3-star reviews,
and exactly, so it's like, okay, well, you didn't hate it,
reviews hurt, yeah,
but you didn't love it.
3-star reviews that are like, I wanted to like this book, and for the most part I did, but like there's this particular aspect that like I really felt like he felt short of, that really just like failed to get. Those ones sometimes I don't read. Yeah, especially if it's like really, if it's like a long formatted thought out essay, I'm like, I don't actually.
You can tell it's getting there. You're like, I'm good. I'm good. I love you. Thank you for the review. Thank you for adding to 2000, but we're good. Yeah.
I got like the vibe. Like, yeah, you know what? Fair enough. because most 1-star reviews are like misspelled and like, you know, and you're like, yeah, fair enough. Like, you know, or I mean, if a 1-star review is like, you were never gonna like this book, right? Books are for everyone, but not every book is written with everyone in mind. And so if somebody reads a book and it's like, I hated this, okay, that's fine. I'm sorry, I can't write it for everyone. But a 3-star can sting sometimes.
Yeah, and so that's what I found really funny. Of like, you definitely have this resilience to like feedback and things like that. But there are, in general, with people, like there's like feedback or things that people say that can dig deeper than others. And you went ahead and articulated more of that too. Are there any like comments that you've received over either with Debt Collection or with Ironbound, that like positive ones that really stuck with you?
I mean, yeah, but they're usually just like, I mean, Ironbound was fun because everyone was like, I had no idea what to expect, and then like I couldn't put this book down. Like, I think Ironbound has that particular like stickiness where people are not able to put it down.
Yeah.
And that's cool because that's my favorite reading experience. So getting to know that I created that for other people, that's definitely been most common in Ironbound. Debt Collection gets it too. It gets it later on. Like, you know, my debut it's a debut. I learned a lot. And
I've heard some people call you a liar online for
that's crazy.
for like lowering our expectations with Soul Fraud, and then they read. So I haven't read it yet, but I told my wife, I was like, I need to read Soul Fraud so I can see and potentially call Andrew a liar online. So I'm waiting on my experience too.
Here's the thing. It's the worst book I've ever written, period. And I hope that it always stays the worst book I've ever written. That doesn't mean it's a bad book.
Sure.
But when everybody's only read Ironbound, and then I'm like, hey, would you like to go back in time 6 books? I don't know. I felt like, let me remind you, you're going back in time 6 books, right? Like, I didn't know what I was doing. And that doesn't mean it's a bad book. It just means that I get better. So, you know, what I said to most people that I sent it to, you included, was like, if you like the vibe of this book, you will like the series, because the jump 1 to 2 is, to me, the biggest jump in quality in my entire writing career.
Yeah.
And then I think each book gets better, but like the gap between 1 and 2, I learned a lot. And that's just honest, right?
Yeah.
Like I could sit here and be like, Soul Fraud is an incredible, like, sure, I like it. I'm proud of it. I'm proud of the Debt Collection. I think that the Debt Collection's freaking awesome.
Yeah.
And everyone should read it. But also, it was
your first book. It was at the end of the day, it was your first thing. Yeah. No, I'm looking forward to that one too. Dude, it's been awesome talking to you. I'm gonna keep badgering you more in the DMs. Like this doesn't end here, obviously. But I really enjoyed talking to you today, just because this conversation had meaning in its own way. Like, I try to make these conversations meaningful for both me and you. But for me, I can only speak from my end. Like this was a very, very meaningful conversation for me too. Just for learning more about you, learning more about the process of like all these things that like you've gone through to write this book, the friends you've made, things like that. I think that's very inspiring for other people who maybe see the other side. You know, sometimes you have the authors who, there are like everybody. There's a struggling artist in everybody and everywhere, and some people might be put off from this path, thinking like, I'm going to struggle, I'm going to be very lonely, I'm going to be very like alone in this path. And there's proof of people like you and others where it's like, no, you can find a group of people who will support you in this endeavor, and help you be better, as long as you're willing to also kind of put yourself out there and like befriend them, right? Not everybody's going to come to you.
Being willing to network sometimes has like a negative connotation to it,
right?
But it truly is, I think, the most important thing in a solo artistic career. Not just because people can open doors for you or something like that, but because like it's dangerous to go alone. Take this, right? Like every time I'm locked in my room, losing my mind, every single book that I write, because I am somebody who discovers it as they're going, usually at about the 60 to 80% mark, I'm like, this book is a pile of garbage. Like, it is not connected. I don't know what I'm doing. Don't know where it's going. I don't understand how we're going to bring this in for a landing. This is it. I wrote a couple good books, and I have like, this is it. I have reached the end of my limit. I'm a hack, and everyone will know. And when that happens, and then I go to a convention and I sit down with people who are crushing it, who are brilliant writers, who are doing, whatever, and they're all like, "Oh man, I don't know what I'm doing right now," and your soul just sheds like all this weight. You're just like, "Oh right, that's the journey." Right, like Frodo didn't carry the ring by himself, and I don't have to write a book in my room by myself. And it's a game changer, 100%.
Yeah. I have 2 questions before I let you go.
Okay.
The first being, where can people find you?
They can find me all over the internet. Obviously, my books are under Andrew Givler on Amazon. Ironbound is in Barnes and Noble as well, and wherever books are sold. You can find me sold. Stolen and sold. You can find them find me on Instagram, YouTube, and Twitter under Sigils, Sigils, and then on TikTok I'm Give Reads, like my last name, Giv Reads.
Nice. Okay. Last one. This is a question that I ask everybody who comes on the podcast the first time. It is an intentionally vague question, but for anybody listening today, what is one piece of advice you'd like to give them?
It's okay to do things poorly. Let yourself do things bad and then learn from it.
Amazing. Haven't had that one yet, so I love that. Because I need to hear that one. That one is
perfect is the enemy of the good. The perfect is the enemy of the good.
I know. Why am I saying I know? He's not saying it to me. But like I'm like, I know. Awesome, dude. Andrew, once again, thank you
very much.
Thank you for joining.